I was staring at a ceiling I hadn't seen in 12 years. A water stain in the corner, shaped like a crooked Florida. The cheap, plastic light fixture with a hairline crack running through it. My childhood bedroom ceiling that my heart slammed against my ribs. This was wrong. This was so deeply, impossibly wrong. The last thing I remembered was the beeping of a flatline, a nurse's sympathetic face swimming in and out of focus, and a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that came from a decade of fighting a losing battle. A battle I'd lost. And now I was here. In my old room, in my old body. My hands flew to my face. They were smooth, unblemished, the knuckles not swollen with the arthritis that had plagued my final years. I scrambled out of bed, my legs trembling, and ran to the small, smudged mirror tacked to the back of my door. My breath caught. There I was at 22. My hair was a wild, untamable brown, not the silver-streaked gray it had been. My cheeks were fuller, free of the hollows of illness. My eyes, my mother's green, were wide and utterly terrified. It was June. I knew it was June 12th, the day of my wedding. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. Today, I was supposed to marry Leo, the charming, golden boy hometown hero who had swept me off my feet in college. The man I had adored with all the naive, desperate passion of youth. And the man who, within 2 years, would have drained my trust fund, isolated me from every single person I loved, and shattered my spirit so completely that I was a ghost in my own life. His hands had never been violent, but his words had been. A slow, corrosive poison. He'd convinced me I was worthless, that the fragile, creative part of me was a burden, and that the only reason my quiet, reclusive childhood friend, Ethan, had ever even looked at me was out of pity. Ethan. My stomach twisted into a knot. Ethan, the boy next door. The one who had been mute since a traumatic accident at age 9. We'd grown up together, our friendship built on Shaw-read silences and past notes. He was the gentle giant with sea-storm gray eyes who always understood what I meant before I even knew how to say it. He was also the one I was scheduled to marry today. It was the cruel joke of my father's will. Leo had come to me with tears of outrage in his eyes. Your father must have been losing his mind, Amelia. His final act of control tying you to that broken man. He had manipulated me so easily, convincing me to run away with him that very afternoon, leaving poor Ethan waiting at the altar, humiliated in front of the entire town. I never saw Ethan's face, only the frantic, worried call I'd ignored from his mother. The guilt, fresh and raw despite the years, was a physical ache in my chest. But it was quickly followed by a hot wave of rage. I was back. I was given a second chance. And I was not going to let Leo destroy me again. Before I could form a coherent plan, I heard a gentle knock on my door. It was soft, hesitant. My mother, Laura, poked her head in. Her face was younger, lines fewer, but her eyes held the same anxious, hopeful light I remembered from my first wedding day. Amelia, honey, she said, her voice full. It's almost time. Ethan and his family are here. Are you ready? On my first try, I'd lied to her. I'd said yes, plastered a fake smile on my face, and then moments later, while she was helping my father with his tie downstairs, I'd snuck out the back door to meet Leo's waiting car. The memory of her face when she discovered I was gone haunted my nightmares. She'd found a letter blaming her and my father for trying to control my life. It was a vile, manipulative piece of writing Leo had helped me craft. The guilt was so intense it made me nauseous. I'm ready, I said, my voice sounding steadier than I felt. This was my chance to rewrite it all. I followed my mother down the familiar, creaky stairs. Every corner of the house seemed to hold a memory, a ghost of my other life. I clung to the present. The living room was buzzing. I saw my father, a stern but soft root man, looking dapper and uncomfortable in his only suit. I saw Ethan's parents, warm and welcoming. And then I saw him. Ethan was standing in the window, looking like a statue revealed from marble and shadow. He was devastatingly handsome, tall, with broad shoulders and a quiet, powerful presence. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his suit, a simple but elegant charcoal gray, fit him perfectly. He was looking out the window, his posture rigid. He was terrified. I could see it in the tension of his jaw, the way his hands were clenched at his sides. I remembered how, the first time around, I dismissed this as his usual awkwardness. Now I saw the sheer dread of being publicly humiliated, of being left in front of everyone he knew. His mother, the role, was fussing with his tie. A nervous smile on her face. Ethan turned, as if sensing my presence, and our eyes met, and that's when he uttered a voice, deep and clear, resonating in my mind as if he just whispered directly into my *. Don't do this, Ethan. You know this is a mistake. She's only going through with this because her father's will. She'd never choose you. Leo's probably got his CAR waiting around the corner right now. Just stop this. You'll be a laughingstock. But more than that, you'll trap her. You'll be her cage. If she's not here in the next 5 minutes, you're going to walk. You won't do this to her. I blinked, my breath catching in my throat. The voice was so real. The thoughts were so clear. And they were his. I was hearing his inner thoughts. Leo had once told me that Ethan resented me, that he was jealous of my freedom and my life. He'd painted a picture of a bitter, silent man who only saw me as a ticket to a better life, a way to escape his own broken existence. I'd believed him because it had been easier to hate Ethan than to face the truth about Leo. But these words, they weren't bitter. They were achingly selfless. He was planning to leave to save me from a life he thought I didn't want. Ethan, I said, my voice a little too loud. I walked toward him, every step feeling surreal. My mother and father were smiling. Roll finally let go of his tie. Ethan's face went pale. He gave me a small, tight smile. The voice in my head was even louder now, frantic. Don't come closer. Just turn away. Save yourself the awkwardness of having to reject me in person. I'll do it. I'll say the words. I'll save you. You look like you're about to bolt, I said quietly, so only he could hear. It was a dangerous thing to say. A test. His gray eyes widened, a flicker of pure panic in them. He shook his head quickly, but his thoughts betrayed him. She knows. She sees right through me. Of course she does. She always could. Okay, just say it. Tell her you need a glass of water, and then you're going to make a run for it. Just do it. But before he could formulate the words, there was a commotion at the front door. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. The smooth, practiced, charming cadence of Leo's voice, his forced laughter. Amelia. There you are, my love. I was just driving by, and I had to see you. Had to wish you well on this monumental day. Leo strolled into the room, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He was wearing a cream-colored linen suit, a few days' worth of stubble, and a smile that was all white teeth and gleaming confidence. He looked like he'd just stepped off a yacht. He swept into my parents' living room like he owned it, his gaze flicking dismissively over Ethan. I could feel the anger radiating off Ethan's silence, his shoulders rigid. Leo, my father said, his voice cold. This is a private family moment. I think you should leave. Now, Mr. Silrk, Leo said, shaking his head with a condescending chuckle. I'm practically family. I just wanted to give the happy couple my best, and to see if the bride has had a change of heart. He winked at me. It was the same wink he'd given me a lifetime ago in a coffee shop, the same one that had made me feel so special. Now it just felt slimy. No, Leo, I said, my voice cutting through the tension. I took a step closer to Ethan, feeling the heat of his body, the tremor of tension running through him. I didn't look at his face, I didn't need to. I could feel his storm of thoughts, a jumbled chaos of protectiveness, hurt, and a surprising blinding rage aimed at Leo. Get away from her, you snake. I know what you're doing. I know about the debt you're in, the gambling, the lies. If you lay a finger on her, I swear to God I might not be able to speak, but I'm not weak. Don't you to retouch her. The depth of his fury, the protective instinct so potent it felt like a physical wall around me, was staggering. He knew. He'd always known about Leo, and he'd never said a word. He just watched silently, waiting for me to see the truth on my own, and being prepared to catch me when I fell. No, Leo repeated, his smile faltering for just a second. He looked from me to Ethan, a cruel glint in his eye. Well then, I'll just be in my CAR if you need a quick escape route. I imagine you'll be bored within the hour. His gaze traveled slowly over Ethan, a look of utter contempt. After all, The conversation is going to be a little one-sided, isn't it? It was a direct, vicious jab. Ethan flinched, his face flushing a deep, painful red. The room went silent. My mother gasped. CA Roll's eyes filled with TRS. And in my mind, Ethan's thoughts shattered into 1,000 Shah RDS of pain. Asterisk again. You're nothing. You're less than nothing. You can't even defend yourself. You can't even defend her. You're a mute, a cripple. Look at him. He's everything you're not. He can give her everything. You can't even speak to her. Just disap AR. You're going to disap AR. Asterisk. The utter devastation in his own inner voice broke me. In my first life, I had let Leo's cruelty stand. I'd been too weak, too bamboozled by his Cha RM to see the truth. But not this time. This time I saw everything with Shah RP brutal CLA righty. I saw the way Ethan's gaze was averted, the way his hands were shaking. I saw the shadow of the accident that had stolen his voice, the years of unwarranted shame, the beautiful soul hiding behind a wall of silence. Ethan is not a disappointment, I said, my voice ringing out clear. I was done with the whispers. I was done with the lies. Leo's smug smile vanished. He looked at me as if I'd just grown a second head. I'm not the one who's going to get bored, I continued, my eyes locked on Leo's. I could feel the weight of everyone's estirie, but I focused on the man who had orchestrated my destruction. And as for a one-sided conversation, I'd rather listen to a moment of Ethan's silence than a lifetime of your lies, Leo. The look of shock on his face was a thing of beauty. It was a venomous, potent blow, and it felt incredible. My lies, Leo sputtered, recovering his composure with a forced laugh. Darling, you're confusing me with someone else. I was just looking out for you. I don't think you want to be here. I think you're just afraid of disappointing Daddy. He was baiting me, trying to twist the situation back to his control. But I had already stepped forward, my hand reaching out and taking Ethan's cold, trembling one. I squeezed it. It erode. He looked down at me, his eyes a maelstrom of confusion and pain. Asterisk. What are you doing, Amelia? Don't do this. Don't make a scene. He's going to make you look crazy. He's going to make your parents think you've lost your mind. Asterisk. The only person who's ever disappointed me, I said, turning to face my father and mother, and the small gathering of family, is myself, for not seeing what was right in front of me. I took a deep breath, the decision solidifying in my chest. This wasn't about a will or money or duty. This was about salvation. My own and his. Ethan, I said, my voice softening as I looked up at him. I could feel his hand shaking in mine. You're not a cage. You're the only person in this world who has ever made me feel safe. And I am not going to let you sacrifice your happiness for some insane idea that you're not worthy of this. I am here. I am choosing you. Right now. And I will not leave you at the altar. He just read at me, his gray eyes sea urching mine. He looked utterly lost. I could almost hear his mental HRS grinding. Asterisk. She can't mean it. She can't. She was just talking to him. She was supposed to leave with him. Is this real? Asterisk. Leo, sensing the tide turning irrevocably against him, took a step back. You're making a fool of yourself, Amelia. This is some kind of joke, right? A last-minute panic. Come on, I'll take you to the CAR. You'll thank me for this. No, I repeated, the word final and absolute. Leave Leo. Right now. And if you ever try to contact me again, I will make sure the entire town knows about your little business ventures and exactly how you manage your funds. It was a low blow, but I knew it would work. Leo's face, which had been a mask of smugness, went pale. A flicker of genuine fear crossed his features. He knew exactly the secret I was hinting at, the debt, the small-time fraud, the loan Shah RKS. He stammered something about me being hysterical, but he was already backing Tawa RD the door. Asterisko. That's brilliant, asterisk. Ethan's inner voice broke through, tinged with a bewildered, hopeful wonder. Asterisk. She knows. She knows about everything. But how? Asterisk. The door slammed behind Leo, and the silence that descended was deafening. And there I was, in my childhood living room, holding the hand of the man I had wronged so deeply in my other life, on the day I was supposed to marry him. My heart was pounding, my soul on fire with the injustice I had survived and the chance I was now being given. The first battle was won. But the war had just begun. The silence in the living room was so profound that I could hear the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. Each second a heavy, ponderous beat. My mother was frozen, her hand covering her mouth. My father was looking at me with a mixture of shock and concern, his brow furrowed. Ethan's parents looked like they were waiting for the other shoe to drop. My family, who for the last week had been tiptoeing around my alleged devotion to Leo, were completely floored by my confrontation. And Ethan was still standing next to me, his hand limp in mine, his mind a frantic jumble of words I couldn't quite untangle. She did it. She actually told him off. She chose me in front of everyone. But why? What changed? Yesterday she was talking about the honeymoon in the Maldives he was promising her. Now she's looking at me like I'm the one she's wanted all along. This is a trick. Has to be. It's a good one though. Damn, she's a good actress. His self-doubt was a tangible thing, a barrier I could almost see. He was so convinced of his own unworthiness that he couldn't process my actions as genuine. Amelia, my father said, breaking the spell. His voice was gruff, but I could hear the tremor in it. You alright? What was all that about? I'm fine, Dad, I said, letting go of Ethan's hand gently, despite his internal protests that I was just pretending. Better than I've been in a long time. I'm sorry for the scene. I turned to face my mother, who was now looking at me with watery eyes. She was a woman of few words, but her heart was as big as the house. I walked to her and took her hands. I need to talk to Ethan alone, I said softly. Just for a few minutes. Before anything else. My mother nodded, relief washing over her features. Of course, honey. We'll be in the kitchen. She looked at C.A. Roll, who was already steering my father toward the back of the house. They moved with a quiet efficiency born of years of Shaw-Red neighborhood gossip, and worried that Ethan hadn't moved. He was still standing by the window, a statue of rigid, silent panic. His pulse was hammering in his neck, and a faint bead of sweat was forming on his temple. I took his hand again, this time more firmly, and led him out the back door and into the La RG, untamed backyard. The sun was high and hot, and the scent of freshly cut grass mixed with the perfume of my mother's overgrown rose bushes. I led him to the old creaky wooden swing set that my father had built when I was 6. It was rusted and precarious, a relic of a simpler time. I sat down on one of the swings and he stood in front of me, his face unreadable. She's going to do it now. She's going to let me down gently. Ethan, I'm so sorry, but I can't go through with this. It's not you, it's me. I know this speech. I've rehearsed it in my response to it 1,000 times. I'm just going to nod and walk away. I'll tell my mom I got sick. Or I'll just disappear. That's what she wants. What she's always wanted. Someone who will just disappear. Ethan. I said, my voice low and steady. Stop it. He blinked, confused. I can see it in your eyes. I continued, skirting the truth. You're already planning your escape route. You're thinking I'm going to dump you out here, that the whole thing inside was some kind of show to save face. You think I'm going to run to Leo and apologize. His eyes widened in alarm. He shook his head, a small, jerky motion. The denial was fierce, but his inner thoughts were shouting. How does she know? She read my mind. No, that's impossible. She's just smart. She's always been able to see right through me. That's what's so terrifying about her. I sighed, the weight of the past 12 years pressing down on me. I know you don't believe me. And I know why. But I'm telling you the truth. I don't want Leo. I never should have wanted him. You were the one who was there for me always. You were the one who used to pass me notes in history class when I was about to cry. You were the one who fixed my bike chain in the rain. You were the one who didn't run away when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. He flinched at that last memory. My mother's cancer had been a dark time. And Ethan, despite his silence, had been a constant, quiet presence. He'd mowed the lawn, brought over casseroles his mother had made, and sat with me in the hospital waiting room. His presence a solid anchor in a sea of fear. She remembers the bike chain that was years ago. I didn't think she even noticed me that day. She was so excited to get to that stupid parody. She just said thank you and ran off. I thought she'd forgotten. I didn't forget. I said, surprising him again. I was being reckless, but I couldn't help it. The dam of silence had broken, and I needed him to understand. I was just too stupid to realize what I had. He slowly sat down on the swing next to me. The old chains groaned under his weight. He was looking at his hands, his long, capable fingers clasped together. This is insane. She's making me feel like I'm dreaming. But the look in her eyes, it's different. It's not the look she gave me yesterday. She looked at me like I was a project, a duty. Now she looks at me like she sees me. Like she actually sees me. I took a deep breath. I know you have questions. You're wondering why I changed my mind. And I can't explain it in a way that will make sense. All I can do is show you from now on that I mean it. He finally looked up at me. His gray eyes were sea urchin, raw with emotion. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small worn notebook and a pen. The same notebook he'd seen a ride since high school. He flipped it open and wrote something, his handwriting neat and precise. He handed it to me. Why, it was a simple, honest question. The one that was burning in his soul. That I looked at the word, at the paper, at the man who was too afraid to speak his heart, and I felt the start to prickle behind my eyes. I had so many reasons. Too many reasons. And none of them I could fully explain because I had a dream. I said, feeling the lie slide through my teeth. It was the best I could do. A very, very long dream. And in it, I made a terrible mistake. I walked away from you. And I spent the rest of my life regretting it. He looked at me, a skeptical crease forming between his brows. A dream. She's using a dream to make a decision like this. That's the flimsiest excuse I've ever heard. But the way she said it. The way her eyes looked when she said it, like she actually felt the pain of it. Like she actually lived it. It felt real. I continued, pushing the lie further. So real that I woke up today and felt like I'd been given another chance. A chance to do it right. And I'm not going to waste it. He took the notebook back from me and wrote another sentence. His hand was trembling slightly. What if this is a mistake? It was the same question I'd been asking myself ever since I opened my eyes. Was I really going to make the same wrong choice, just to avoid a different one? But the answer, when I thought about it, was clear. Ethan, I said, turning to face him. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to be a perfect wife. I don't even know if I know how to be a good one. But I know I don't want to be Leo's. And I know more than anything, that I want to give us a real chance. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and fragile. He was looking at me with a mixture of disbelief and desperate, soul-crushing hope. She's going to break my heart. I can feel it. She's going to build up all this hope. And then she's going to pull the rug out from under me. But what if she doesn't? What if she actually means it? What if I'm not just a consolation prize? What if I'm the main event? No. That's dangerous thinking. That's how you get crushed. I could see the war raging in his head. I reached out and gently took his hand again. He didn't pull away. I'm not going to hurt you, I said, my voice a whisper. I've done enough of that. Just give me a chance. A real one. He looked from my eyes to my hand, then back up again. He gave a small, hesitant nod. A single, almost imperceptible movement of his head, but it was enough. It was a door opening just a crack. And I was going to push it wide open. Just then, the back door of my house swung open, and my mother stepped out, her face a real mask of composure. Amelia, the CAR is here. Your father is waiting. It was the signal. It was time to leave for the church. The ceremony that, in my other life, had been an hour of sheer soul-crushing embarrassment, followed by my family's frantic search for me. This time it was different. This time I was walking toward him. Ethan stood up and I followed. He offered me his arm, his old-fashioned, gentlemanly gesture. I took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath the sleeve of his suit. She's holding my arm. She's actually holding my arm. His thoughts were a broken record of sheer, overwhelming disbelief. This is really happening. I'm taking her to the church. I'm not running away. I'm not leaving her. I'm walking her to the church tomorrow. Why her?
Ajme Marin Camelia Cela Arkej.
Oh God. His anxiety was palpable, but there was a note of exhilaration underneath it. A fearful, Giddy-joyed that we walked to the car, a black Lincoln Town car that my father had borrowed for the occasion. Ethan opened the door for me, and I slid in, my heart hammering against my ribs. He got in beside me, his large frame taking up most of the back seat that the ride to St. Marc's was a blur. I read out the window at the familiar streets of our hometown, every landmark arcade, the old diner, the movie theater, the high school, a reminder of the life I had lived before, and the life I was determined to live now. Ethan was silent, of course, but his mind was racing, a frantic, anxious counterpoint to the silent, composed exterior he presented to the driver. He was thinking about the vows, about whether he'd be able to do the small gestures, nodding, holding my hands, looking me in the eyes, without breaking down. What if I can't do it? What if I freeze? What if everyone is looking at me and I just stand there like a statue? She'll be so embarrassed. She'll regret this. She'll realize she made a huge mistake. Hey, I said softly, leaning over and placing my hand on his arm. It's just you and me, okay? Forget about everyone else. It's just us. He looked at me, and a small, fragile smile touched his lips. It was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. She's good at this. She's really good at this. She makes me feel like I'm the only person in the world. Even when I know she's lying, I want to believe her. I want to believe her so badly. I did believe me. I wanted him to believe me too. The church was packed. I could hear the organ playing from inside, a soft, somber melody. My father was waiting at the door, his face a mixture of pride and bewilderment. It's time, sweetheart, he said. Offering me his arm, I took his arm, my legs feeling like jello. I glanced at Ethan, who was standing beside his best man, a cousin of his I knew. He was staring straight ahead, looking like he was about to be urged to the firing squad. You can do this, Ethan. You can do this for her. You can do this for yourself. Just breathe. Just breathe and don't trip. Don't pass out. Don't do anything stupid. The music swelled. The familiar bridal mars. The heavy oak doors swung open, and the congregation rose. A sea of faces turned toward me. I took a deep breath, my eyes searching the crowd. I saw Leo's family sitting in the back, looking grim and uncomfortable. I saw my mother in the front row, crying quietly. And then I saw Ethan, his back to me, waiting for me at the altar. This was it. The climax of my first disaster and the beginning of my second chance. As I walked down the aisle, my father's arm steady under my hand, I kept my eyes fixed on Ethan's back. The walk felt eternal. 100-mile journey fraught with memories of a painful past, and the terrifying uncertainty of the future. Then, I was there. My father placed my hand in Ethan's. His hand was cold, clammy, and trembling. But it was strong, and he didn't let go. He turned to face me, his eyes meeting mine. The look on his face was one of pure, unadulterated awe, as if he was seeing a ghost. And in a way he was. The pastor began to speak, his voice a low drone in the background. I saw him open his mouth to continue, but his words were drowned out by a new voice in my head. She's so beautiful. How did I get so lucky? Wait, she's looking at me. She's actually looking at me like she sees me. Like I'm a real person. This is it. This is the moment. Amelia, if you can hear me, I promise you, I will do everything in my power to make you happy. I know I don't talk, but I will listen. I will always listen. I will always be here. For whatever you need. I had to blink back the TRS. His inner vow, so simple and so profound, was a balm on my wounded soul. It was everything I had never had from Leo and more. It was a promise from a man who had been silenced by fate, and yet had never stopped speaking to me with his heart. I do, I said, my voice ringing out, strong and clear. The pastor turned to Ethan. He gave the cue for the silent vows. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat bobbing. I love you, Amelia. I have loved you since the first day I saw you on the school bus when you were 7 and I was 8, and you gave me half your sandwich because I didn't have one. I will love you until the day I die. I'm just sorry I can't say it out loud. He nodded. A single, firm nod. His eyes were filled with a devastating tenderness that made my heart ache. The pastor smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Ethan's face flushed a deep pink. He looked at me, his eyes asking a silent question. Is this really okay? I smiled at him, a genuine radiant smile. It's okay, I whispered. It's just us. He leaned in, his movements hesitant and sweet. He pressed his lips to mine, a soft, chaste kiss. It was brief, almost too brief, but it sent a jolt of electricity through my entire body. It was like the first real connection I had ever had, a promise sealed in a single gentle touch. And as he pulled away, the congregation erupted in applause. I could hear my mother's sobs and my father's relieved laughter. I could feel the warmth of the church and the solid presence of my husband beside me, but in my head, I could hear Ethan's thoughts, a swirling mix of elation and terror. I did it. I actually did it. I me marito Amelia. My Amelia. She's mine. She's really truly mine. Now please God, let me not screw this up. I took his hand in mine, squeezing it softly. You won't, I whispered, so only he could hear. We won't. He looked at me, his eyes wide with confusion. How does she do that? I just smiled. A secret smile for a secret I was going to have to earn to keep. The wedding was over. The wedding was over, and the real work was just beginning. The reception was a blur of cake, champagne, and well-meaning family members. My cheeks ached from smiling. Ethan was a perfect, silent anchor by my side, his hand never quite leaving the small of my back. A constant, reassuring presence. He was a good actor, I had to give him that. The only giveaway was the constant chatter in his head. Amelia's aunt is talking about my lovely quiet nature. If only she knew I'm screaming on the inside.
I'm terrified.
This is too good to be true. She's going to leave me. She's going to realize she can't have a real conversation with me and she's going to leave. I squeezed his hand under the table. It was a small gesture, but I saw his shoulders relax slightly. I was in the middle of a conversation with my cousin, a loud, bombastic woman who was recounting her own disastrous wedding in excruciating detail, when I felt the air shift. A familiar, oily presence settled in the room. Leo, that he had the nerve to show up. He was standing by the bar, a glass of something amber in his hand, a predatory smirk on his face. He was waiting, lurking. He caught my eye and raised his glass in a mock toast. Excuse me, I said to my cousin, excusing myself from the table. I walked over to Leo, my blood simmering. That Amelia, he said, his voice smooth as honey. Congratulations. You put on quite the show. You really had me going there for a minute. What do you want, Leo? I said, my voice low and dangerous. Just to talk. A private word. For old time's sake. He gestured toward a small, deserted alcove in the coat checked. I looked across the room. Ethan was being cornered by my father, who was talking about the stock market. He looked unhappy, his gaze flickering toward me every few seconds. I could feel his anxiety spike. She's talking to Leo. Of course she is. He's coming to collect his prize. She's going to go with him. She's going to walk out of here. And I'll be the one who has to face the music. I knew it. I knew this was a setup. The old Amelia, the one from my previous life, would have been paralyzed by Ethan's suspicion, by the desire to prove him wrong. But the new Amelia, the one who had died and come back, was tired of playing games. I made a snap decision. Fine, I said to Leo. 5 minutes. But if you try anything, I will scream for my father, and you will be physically removed from the building. Leo chuckled, but I saw a flicker of unease in his eyes. I led him to the alcove, a small, dark nook behind a large potted ficus. The moment we were alone, his facade of charm dropped. He grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly tight. What the hell are you doing? He hissed. You're making a fool of me. Of us. You think I'm just going to let you walk away? I yanked my wrist free. You don't have a choice, Leo. I know about the debts. I know about the loan RKS. I know you gambled away your inheritance. And I know you plan to use me to get your hands on my father's money. He went pale. That's a lie. Who told you that? It doesn't matter who told me, I said. What matters is that I know. And I will expose every single one of your dirty little secrets if you ever come near me or my family again. Do I make myself clear? His face contorted with rage. You can't prove any of that. You're bluffing. I said, letting a cold smile spread across my face. I know about the payment you missed to Vinny DeLuca last March. I know about the forged signatures on those property documents. And I know about the little black book you keep in your desk drawer with all the names and amounts. Want me to go on? He recoiled as if I'd slapped him. The color drained from his face completely. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. For the first time since I'd known him, Leo was completely speechless. You're a monster, he finally whispered. No, I said, stepping closer to him. I'm the woman you tried to destroy. And I'm telling you right now, you will never come near me again. You will never speak to me again. You will pretend I don't exist. And if I ever hear that you've been spreading rumors about Ethan, or my family, or anyone I see about, I will destroy you. Do you understand? He swallowed hard, his eyes darting around the alcove like a trapped animal. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. He didn't look back. He just read through the side door of the reception hall, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that I'd seen the last of him. I let out a long, shaky breath. My hands were trembling. I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes for just a moment. When I opened them, Ethan was standing at the entrance to the alcove. His face was a mask of controlled fury, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He looked like he was about to tear the building apart with his bare hands. I saw him grab you. I saw him touch you. I'm going to kill him. I don't see if I can't speak. I'm going to find him and I'm going to Ethan, I said quickly, crossing the space between us and placing my hands on his chest. I'm fine. Look at me. I'm fine. He shook his head, his jaw tight. His thoughts were a storm of violence and fear. He had his hands on you. He was threatening you. I should have been here. I should have protected you. I'm useless. I'm completely useless. Stop that, I said firmly. You are not useless. You came running the moment you saw something was wrong. That's what matters. And I handled it. He's gone. He's not coming back. Ethan looked down at me, his gray eyes searching mine. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his notebook, and wrote with angry, jagged strokes. What did he say to you? What did he want? Nothing important, I said. Just the same old lies. But I'm done with lies, Ethan. All of them. I took his hand and led him back toward the reception. Come on. Let's go dance. The rest of the reception passed in a haze of forced smiles, and fully avoided topics. My mother kept shooting me worried glances. My father kept looking toward the door, as if expecting Leo to burst back in. But I kept my composure, dancing with Ethan, laughing at jokes, cutting the cake with a steady hand. And through it all, Ethan's thoughts were a constant, comforting presence. She's so strong. I don't know how she does it. I can stand to be in a room full of people. And she just handles everything. She's incredible. And she's mine. She's actually mine. When the reception finally wound down, my mother pulled me aside. Amelia, she said, her voice low and urgent. Are you sure about this about Ethan? I know your fathers will put you in a difficult position. But if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. We can figure something out. I took her hands in mine. Mom, I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Ethan is a good man. He's the best man I know. And I'm not marrying him because of Dad's will. I'm marrying him because I want to. She studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly, a small smile playing at her lips. Okay, she said. If you're sure. I'm sure. I said that Ethan's parents drove us to the small cottage he'd inherited from his grandmother on the edge of town. It was a modest place, a little rundown but full of character. A round porch, a flower garden that had gone wild, and a creaky screen door that squealed when you opened it. It was the house Ethan had grown up in after his accident. The house where he'd retreated from the world. She's going to hate it. It's too small. Too old. She's used to nice things. Her parents' house is twice this size. She's going to walk in and realize she's made a terrible mistake. I squeezed his hand as we walked up the steps. It's perfect, I said softly. He looked at me with disbelief. She's lying. She has to be lying. Asterisk, the interior was cozy and cluttered with books. Every surface was covered in stacks of novels, old photography magazines, and strange little trinkets he'd collected over the years. A guitar sat in the corner, covered in dust. A fireplace was filled with crumpled newspapers and half-burned logs. It smelled like old paper and wood smoke. "It smells like home," I said. Meaning it. Ethan closed the door behind us and suddenly we were alone. The silence was thick, jaw-ridged with everything we hadn't said. He stood in the middle of the living room, looking completely lost. His hands fidgeted at his sides. His thoughts were a mess. Asterisk, what do I do now? What do I say? I can't say anything. I can't say anything at all. This is the moment she realizes. This is the moment she sees what she's signed up for. Asterisk, I walked over to him slowly like I was approaching a wild animal. I reached up and placed my hand on his cheek. He flinched, but he didn't pull away. "Ethan," I said, my voice rely above a whisper. "I know you're SCA red. I know you think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and regret this. But I'm not. I'm not going anywhere." He STA read at me, his eyes shining with unshed tears. He reached for his notebook, but I stopped him. "Don't," I said. "You don't need to write anything. You don't need to say anything. Just be here with me." He took a shaky breath. His hand came up to cover mine, his fingers intertwining with my own. Asterisk, I want to tell you. I want to say it out loud. I want you to hear it. But I can't. I can't make the words come out. They're stuck. They've always been stuck. What if they're stuck forever? What if I can never tell you how I really feel? Asterisk. "Hey," I said softly. "I can hear you. Not with my ARS but with my heart. I know what you're feeling, Ethan. I know. And I feel it too." He closed his eyes, a tear sliding down his cheek. I wiped it away with my thumb. We stood there in the quiet of the cottage, two broken people trying to find a way to be whole. And in that moment I knew that I'd made the right choice. Not because it was easy, not because it was comfortable, but because it was real. The night stretched on, full of small tentative moments. He made us tea, his hands shaking as he poured the water. I found a stack of old photo albums and we sat on the couch, flipping through the pages in silence. He pointed to a picture of himself at age 8, before the accident, and his thoughts were tinged with a familiar sadness. Asterisk, that was the last year I could speak. The last year I could say I love you to my mom. The last year I could talk to anyone. I used to be so loud. I used to never shut up. And then I couldn't say anything at all. Asterisk, I leaned my head on his shoulder. "I would have loved you then too," I said softly. He tensed, then relaxed, his arm coming around me to pull me closer. Asterisk, how does she do that? How does she always know exactly what to say? It's like she can see inside my head. Asterisk, I smiled against his shoulder. If only he knew. We eventually went to bed, the exhaustion of the day finally catching up with us. He was awkwardly uncertain, hovering at the edge of the bed like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. I pulled back the covers and patted the space beside me. "Come on," I said. "I don't bite." His thoughts were a flurry of anxiety. Asterisk, this is it. This is where it all falls apart. She's going to see me in the morning, hair everywhere, probably drooling, and she's going to realize I'm just a regular guy. A boring, ordinary guy who can't even. Asterisk, Ethan, I interrupted. Get in the bed. He got in the bed. Asterisk, you're so bossy. It's so attractive. Why is that attractive? I don't understand this. I don't understand any of this. Asterisk, I laughed, the sound surprising both of us. Good night, Ethan, I said. He looked at me, his gray eyes soft in the dim light. He raised his hand and gently brushed a strand of hair from my face. Asterisk, good night, Amelia. My Amelia. Asterisk, I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of his body beside me, the steady rhythm of his breathing. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt safe. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I woke to the sound of birds and the smell of coffee. For a disorienting moment, I didn't know where I was. The ceiling was unfamiliar, sloped and wooden, not the smooth white of my childhood bedroom. Then I remembered. The cottage. Ethan. The wedding. I turned my head. Ethan was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, his back to me. He was wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants, His hair mussed from sleep. He was staring at the wall. His shoulders tense. She's still here. She didn't leave in the middle of the night. I can't believe she's still here. This is real. This is really real. What do I do now? Make breakfast? That's what husbands do, right? I can't ask her what she wants. I can't. Good morning, I said, my voice rough with sleep. He jumped, spinning around to face me. His eyes were wide, riled. He reached for his notebook on the nightstand, his fingers fumbling with the pen. Good morning. Did you sleep okay? I didn't sleep at all. I kept listening for the door. I was so red you were going to leave. I slept great, I said, sitting up and stretching. You didn't have to worry. I told you I'm not going anywhere. He read at me, his mouth slightly open. The notebook was in his hand, but he wasn't writing anything. His thoughts were a jumble of amazement and disbelief. She did it again. She answered my thoughts. She always does. Is it a coincidence? It can't be. But that's impossible. People don't read minds. That's not real. I bit my lip, realizing my mistake. I'd been too realist, too free with my responses. I needed to be more reful. If he ever figured out what I could, it would change everything between us. He'd feel exposed, vulnerable. He'd never trust me again. I just have a good intuition about you, I said, hoping that was vague enough. It's a gift. He raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. But he didn't press the issue. Instead, he wrote something in his notebook and showed it to me. Breakfast. I can make pancakes. They might be terrible. I haven't tried in years. Pancakes sound perfect, I said. I'm sure they'll be wonderful. They weren't wonderful. They were burnt on the outside and raw on the inside. But I ate every single one of them, smiling the whole time, because Ethan was watching me with such hopeful, anxious eyes that I couldn't be to disappoint him. They're terrible. I know they're terrible. She's just being nice. She's going to get tired of being nice eventually. Can I teach you a recipe? I asked, dabbing the corner of my mouth with a napkin. My grandmother had this amazing apple pancake recipe. I used to make it with her when I was little. He nodded eagerly, his eyes lighting up. She wants to see you okay with me. She wants to spend time with me. This is good. This is really good. And so we spent the morning in the tiny, cluttered kitchen, making a mess of flour and eggs and cinnamon. He couldn't speak, but he could follow instructions. I'd say stir clockwise and he'd stir clockwise. I'd say add a pinch of salt, and he'd add a pinch of salt. We moved around each other like we'd been doing this for years. Our bodies finding a natural rhythm. At one point I looked over at him. He was standing at the stove, flipping the pancakes with surprising dexterity. The morning light was streaming through the window, casting golden shadows across his face. His concentration was absolute. She's staring at me. Why is she staring at me? Is there something on my face? Did I burn something? You're beautiful, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. I dropped the spatula. His face flushed a deep crimson. He looked at me, his eyes wide and questioning. What did she just say? That she called me beautiful? No one has ever called me beautiful. Not since the accident. What do I do? What do I say? Just stating a fact, I said, shrugging with more nonchalance than I felt. The pancakes look great. The pancakes look great. She says I'm beautiful and then she talks about pancakes. Is that a good sign? Is she being sarcastic? I can't tell. I can never tell. I laughed, the sound bright and real. Felt good to laugh. It felt like something I hadn't done in years, not truly. Not since before Leo. The rest of the week passed in a blur of small moments and stolen glances. We explored the town together, walking down the same streets we'd grown up on, but seeing them through new eyes. He introduced me to his favorite places. The used bookstore where he spent hours, the old bridge where he used to fish, the little diner where his mother worked years ago. And through it all, his thoughts were a constant running comment, a mixture of joy and fear, hope and doubt. He was so terrified of losing what we had that he could rely enjoy it. Every moment of happiness was shadowed by the possibility of it ending. She's laughing. She's laughing at my stupid joke about the cat. She thinks I'm funny. She actually thinks I'm funny. This is perfect. This is everything. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. One night, we were sitting on the porch, watching the fireflies blink in the GA den. He was writing something in his notebook, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then he handed it to me. Why me? Why did you pick me? I'm not saying this to make you feel sorry for me. I really want to know. You could have had anyone. You were the most beautiful girl in school. You could have had anyone. And you chose the guy who can't even tell you he loves you out loud. I read the words, my heart aching. I looked at him, his gray eyes soft in the twilight, and I knew I had to tell him the truth. Not the whole truth, not the rebirth, not the mind reading, but the important truth. The truth that mattered, because you see me, I said. The real me, not the version I put on for other people. You've always seen me, Ethan. Even when I didn't see myself. You were the one who showed up with soup when I was sick. You were the one who held my hand at the hospital. You were the one who made me feel like I mattered. Even when I felt like I was falling apart. He was staring at me, tears glistening in his eyes. I was so lost, I continued. I was so lost and I didn't even know it. I let someone else tell me who I was. And I believed him. But you never treated me like I was broken. You treated me like I was whole. You made me want to be whole. He reached for his notebook, his hand shaking. He wrote something and handed it to me. I was so red. I was so red that when you found out you had to marry me, you'd resent me. I thought about running away. I thought about telling everyone I couldn't do it. But then you looked at me. You looked at me like I was the only person in the world. And I knew I couldn't run. Not from you. I would have found you, I said softly. Wherever you ran, I would have found you. He laughed, a silent, breathy sound that was more exhalation than a laugh. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly against his chest. I could feel his heart pounding, feel the tremor in his hands. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm sorry I can't say it out loud. I'm sorry I can't give you that. But I love you. I love you more than anything in this world. I pulled back, looking up at him. I know, I said. I know you do. He looked at me with that familiar sea urchin gaze. The one that always made me feel like he was looking right through me. How do you always know? Because I can feel it, I said. Because you show me every day. And everything you do. You don't need words, Ethan. You never have. He leaned down and pressed his forehead to mine, his eyes closed. His thoughts quieted, settled into a steady hum of contentment. This is it. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. This feeling. This peace. The months passed. Fall came, and the leaves turned gold and red. Ethan and I settled into a routine that felt more like a refuge than a compromise. He worked at the local hardware store, a job his father had secured for him years ago. I took a position at the town library, a quiet job surrounded by books and silence. And slowly, tentatively, we built a life together. There were still moments of doubt. Moments when I'd catch Ethan ring at me with that familiar haunted look. Moments when his thoughts would spiral into anxiety and fear. She's so happy today. What if she changes her mind? What if she wakes up tomorrow and decides she made a mistake? But those moments were becoming fewer. We were running each other. Running the contours of each other's fears and joys. He was running that I wasn't going anywhere. And I was running that I didn't need words to feel loved. One evening, in late November, we were sitting by the fire reading. The wind was howling outside, rattling the windows. I had a cup of hot chocolate in my hands, and he was reading a thick novel, his brow furrowed in concentration. I should tell her. I should get up and do it. But what if she says no? What if she's not ready? What if she thinks it's too soon? I looked up from my book. Tell me what? I asked. Before I could stop myself, he froze. His eyes widened. He read at me, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. What? How did she? She didn't. Did I say that out loud? I didn't say that out loud. I didn't say anything. What is going on? I panicked. I'd done it again. I was too comfortable, too realist. I was about to make up some excuse when he reached for his notebook, his hands shaking. He wrote something and handed it to me. How do you always know what I'm thinking? The question hung in the air between us. I could lie. I could make up some story about women's intuition, about knowing him so well, about being able to read his face. I could deflect and distract and move on. But I was so tired of lying. I was so tired of keeping secrets. Ethan, I said, my voice rely above a whisper. I need to tell you something. And I need you to promise me you'll hear me out. Even if it sounds crazy. He nodded slowly, his expression wary. I can hear you, I said. I can hear your thoughts. I've been able to hear them since the day of our wedding. He read at me. His face was completely blank. His thoughts were a static hum of disbelief. What? That's not possible. That's not a real thing. People can't read minds. She's joking. This is a joke. A really bad joke. I'm not joking, I said. I know it sounds insane. I know it sounds impossible. But it's true. I woke up on the day of our wedding, and I heard your voice in my head. And I've been hearing it ever since. He was shaking his head, his face growing pale. He wrote frantically in his notebook, this isn't funny. This is a really sick joke, Amelia. It's not a joke, I said, my voice breaking. I was so afraid to tell you. I was so afraid you'd think I was crazy, or that you'd feel like I was invading your privacy. But I couldn't keep lying to you. Not anymore. Not after everything. He pushed away from the fireplace, standing up abruptly. His face was a mask of shock and betrayal. You've been inside my head. All this time, every thought I've ever had about you, every stupid, insecure, pathetic thought you've heard, all of it. Yes, I said, tears streaming down my face. Every single one. And I never used it to hurt you. I never used it against you. I only ever wanted to understand you. To be close to you. He was pacing now, his hands running through his hair. His thoughts were a storm, angry and confused. I don't have any privacy. I don't have any space. She knows everything. Everything I'm ashamed of. Everything I've ever thought. This is a violation. This is a complete violation. I know, I said, my voice small. I know it was wrong not to tell you, liar. I know it's a violation. But I was red, Ethan. I was so red of losing you. He stopped pacing. He turned to face me, his chest heaving. His eyes were filled with pain. But why did you get this? Why me? I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know why it happened. I just know that it did. And I know that what I heard, the first time I heard your voice, it changed everything. I heard you planning to leave me at the altar. I heard you sacrificing your own happiness to save me from a life you thought I didn't want. I heard how much you loved me, even when you thought I didn't love you back. He was ring at me, his expression shifting. The anger was fading, replaced by something softer, more fragile. You heard that? I heard everything, I said. And that's why I chose you. Not because I could read your mind, but because I saw your heart. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and pulled me into his arms. His embrace was fierce, desperate. His thoughts were a jumble of emotions, but the dominant feeling was relief. I thought she was going to leave me. I thought she was going to tell me I was crazy. But she's not leaving. She's not. She's still here. She's still my Amelia. I'm still your Amelia, I whispered, echoing his thoughts. And I'm never leaving you. Not ever. He pulled back and looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed, his cheeks wet with tears. He reached for his notebook, his hand steady now. I love you. I know I can't say it out loud. But I want you to hear it. I want you to always hear it. I love you. I can hear it, I said, smiling through my tears. I can always hear it. And in that moment, all the secrets were gone. All the walls we'd built were torn down. We were just 2 people, broken and flawed, but together. Whole. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the fire crackled. And Ethan pulled me close, his lips finding mine in a kiss that was both a promise and a beginning. The silence between us was no longer empty. It was full. Full of everything we'd never said out loud, and everything we'd always known in our hearts.